Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and you all know my guest. He is a friend of the channel. He's been on many times. He has his own playlist, just like Chris Carr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here. Rob, what is up?
Well, my son, it is always nice to see your beautiful face.
Aw, it really brightens my day to get to talk to you. Rob, you have a very exciting project that is coming out very soon. You have a
Yes,
10-part, fully immersive audio drama called True Noir,
True Noir.
and I am so excited for this. How did this project come about? Ooh,
Okay. Oh, I got it. This is my old man Logan figure. I just have to move it down because he's gonna fall over. If I can, well, hang on. Let me get the book first, and I can set this back down. So this is an interesting story. This entire project was born from social media. So I do a Sunday YouTube show called Let's Get Physical Media with my friend Dieter Bastian in Germany, and we've been doing it for 4 years now. And Max Allen Collins, a novelist who lives in Iowa, he wrote the graphic novel that the movie Road to Perdition is based on. He also wrote a series of novels about a character named Quarry that they adapted for Cinemax for a season, and they've done it. He's had other movies made based on his work. He wrote Batman comics. He used to write the Dick Tracy comic strip in the Chicago Tribune. He's written a ton of books, and he's a fan of our YouTube show. And he lives in Moline, Iowa, and my business partner, Mike Bodden, lives in Riverdale, Iowa, and they were friends with each other. And if you look up my YouTube show and you want to send me a letter or something, I have a P.O. box in Iowa because Mike Bodden gets the material. So they're at lunch one day, and Max Allen Collins said I was going to send Rob Burnett a fan letter, and it turns out it would go to Riverdale, Iowa, to you. And so Mike calls me up as they're eating and says there's somebody who wants to talk to you, and puts Max Allen Collins on the phone. And Max says, I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm a huge fan of yours. I have your graphic novel for Road to Perdition, and I have your entire run of Batman comics that you wrote during the 80s. And we start just talking, and he and I are totally birds of a feather. He's a little older than me, but I said, we should do something together. And Mike had suggested adapting maybe some of his work. And a lot of his stuff, he took over Mickey Spillane's character, Mike Hammer, who was really popular in the 50s and 60s and has been writing Mike Hammer novels, but those are owned by Skydance. And Max said to me, he goes, well, I have my own series of books. And the first one of those books, which he wrote in 1983, is this book, True Detective. Now, we can't use this title, obviously, because HBO did. So True Detective is the first of 19 books in a series about a detective named Nathan Heller. And Nathan Heller, when we meet him in this book, he's on the pickpocket detail of the Chicago PD. Now, the book is set at the very end of Prohibition and 4 years into the Great Depression, because the Depression was making people so depressed they had to drink booze, so they had to take Prohibition back. But so in Chicago at that time, Al Capone was a mob boss. You know, they had the Chicago mobs of the 20s were big. So this story, when we meet Nathan Heller, it's almost right on the heels of the movie The Untouchables, even though the movie wasn't historically accurate. The Untouchables were real. And then it's also kind of a sequel to Road to Perdition. And so Nathan Heller is a guy he's 28 years old. He's on the Chicago PD. And when we meet him, he's taken by these cops into a raid on Frank Nitti, who's taken over the Chicago mobs after Al Capone was put in jail. And he accidentally shoots a kid during this raid, and he gets swept up in what may or may not be a gangland plot to consolidate power and kill the mayor of Chicago, Anton Cermak. And Nathan Heller finds himself between a rock and a hard place, and he has to navigate these difficult waters. And he ends up actually getting hired by Al Capone, and Al Capone's a character played by Anthony LaPaglia in our audio drama, who was in Road to Perdition as Al Capone, but got cut out. So that's why I wanted to, I'm like, can we get Anthony LaPaglia to come back and play? So I read this book, and I'm like, this book is really interesting. It's kind of like, it has a tone of Chinatown, which is one of my favorite movies, Roman Polanski's Chinatown from 1974, directed by Roman Polanski. It's one of the great modern noirs. And this also is set in the 30s. And I've always loved audio dramas. Growing up, I listened to CBS Radio Mystery Theater, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Star Wars NPR dramas. So we could never afford to make this into a movie. So I said to Max, I go, what if we do this as an audio drama? And back in November and December of 2023, we did a proof of concept. I had Chris Carr come in because I wanted her voiceover stylings. I hired Todd Stashwick, who I just met, who played Captain Liam Shaw on Star Trek Picard, and then Logan, obviously Chris Carr's husband, and my friend David Starzyk. And we recorded this proof of concept because I didn't know how. Like, my idea for an audio drama is not like an audio book. I wanted to make an audio drama that sounded cinematic. It sounded like a movie. Because when I was in high school and college, I used to DJ a lot, and I'd make people mixtapes. And in between the 12-inch remixes, I would put clips from films that I would take off my Laserdisc and put them in between the songs.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I loved how, like, when I was in my car, I had a really pretty good audio system in my car. I loved how the sound from the movies sounded in my car stereo. It was like, wow, this sounds really full. It'd be like if you have a surround sound system at home. And I love that. And I'm like, why don't people make audio dramas more like that? So the approach to this is, I keep saying to people, well, it's like cinema, but you can't see it. Which is sort of silly because cinema means you should be able to see something. But the idea that we're going to approach this audio drama as if it's a movie or your favorite streaming show. And then we did the proof of concept, and which I liked. And we kind of got a workflow because we have to mix this like a movie's mixed. You don't have, we have to come up with, and one of the funny things that I found about this was, like, we had a few scenes where there's like there's a gun shootout. And so one of our characters in the shootout goes to an apartment, and I'm trying to edit this. And then you realize, well, there is no apartment. You can't see the apartment. So if a character breaks down a door, where is the door? Like, and from an audio perspective, you're trying to create these audio environments. So if there's a door and a guy goes into an apartment and he's going to fire at people, where are they sitting? Because you have to figure out, if they're sitting over there, then you have to hear bullets go from here to here. And if you have bullets hit the wall and shatter or splinter the wood, you have to hear it go. You have to put all that sound in there because you can't see it. And in order to convey what's actually happening, you have to make sure that the listeners know what's happening. And now, while we do have narration, we're treating it like it's a movie. And the narration is more like Apocalypse Now or Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption. So we did this proof of concept, but Max hadn't written a script. He'd given us this little tiny, basically a scene. And I said to Max, I coerced him. I'm like, well, I'd love you to adapt your own novel. And that would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it cost us not that. And because we made Max a producer. And so Mike, Bod, and I and Max came up with this concept of calling this true noir, because the conceit of these novels about Nathan Heller is that he gets involved in real historical events, actual mysteries that have some kind of ambiguity in what actually happened. But all the main characters, like, we have Al Capone, we have Frank Nitti, we have Walter Winchell, we have George Raft, the actor, as a character. Anton Cermak was a real guy, and he really did get assassinated. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is a character. And so it's really cool. So we're taking you through history, but from a fictional perspective. It's real history, but our main character is fictional. And when I started to read Max's scripts, I was like, scripts, and they were some of the best scripts I ever read. And I was like, oh, I can't just call up my friends and say, hey, you want to come do this thing? And Todd had other things to do because the commitment was large, and so we had to wait. I had to start waiting for Max to adapt the book. And when I got the first 2 scripts of the 10 chapters in, I called my friend Christine Sheeks, who produces, and she's been casting movies for more than 30 years. She started work on Moonlighting, and she cast movies like Boogie Nights. And I called her up, and at first she didn't call me back. She was like, what is this fakakta thing you want to do? What? And then she read the script, and the first scripts I had, and she goes, this is like a Coen Brothers movie or a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I go, I know. And she goes, oh, I'm in.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so what that allowed her to do was she knows people at all the big agencies like CAA and William Morris and UTA. And so she could open doors that I couldn't. Like I couldn't just call up, hi, I'm doing this audio drama and I would love it if you guys would send me some of your clients. I could never do that because I don't have that kind of credibility. And then we started to cast it. And the fun thing the only thing I knew going in was I knew two things. I knew I wanted to get Anthony LaPaglia to play Al Capone, and I knew I wanted Chris Carr to play the lead. Because one, I love Chris, and two, she was really, really good in the proof of concept. And as it turns out, when we just started casting, and suddenly we started getting all these great actors that I love.
Yeah.
Everybody from C. Thomas Howell, Pony Boy himself, to William Sadler, who I work with on The Hills Run Red, but he played Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. He was the villain in Die Hard 2. And then we started just getting this really great, Katie Sackhoff is in it, from Battlestar Galactica and Longmire. It's Bill Smitrovich, who's a character actor who's been in everything, who I love, did a lot of work with. Michael Mann was the star of Crime Story back in the 80s. And the audience, we specifically said, I want to go get this actor, this actor, this actor. And when they read the material, most actors signed on. Some of them were too expensive for us because we had to pay SAG rates and everything. But I'm blown away by this cast. And I'm like, I can't, I can't believe it. Like you talking about Louis Lombardi, Christine came to me and she said, do you know who Louis Lombardi is? I'm like, how, 24? The Sopranos, he was in Natural Born Killers. I love Louis Lombardi. He's kind of got a really great face, and the way he speaks is so distinctive. And she goes, well, I want to, there are two cops, the two Harrys, and these are real guys, Harry Lang and Harry Miller, and they work for Mayor Cermak. And so Christine said, I have these two actors. I want Louis to play Harry Miller, and I want Savario Guerrera to play Harry Lang. And he was an Italian actor. I didn't remember, his name didn't ring a bell, but once I saw him, I'm like, oh, that guy, and then we were able to get Vincent Pastore, Big Pussy Bumpancero from The Sopranos, and the three of them all knew each other. And so it was amazing. And we started to record. And unlike a lot of voiceover stuff, for this, it wouldn't work if one person goes into a booth. So whenever I try and have everybody record together. And then we still haven't, by the way, here's an interesting tidbit. When we do this recording, we have not cast our lead.
Oh, wow.
Todd Stashwick, I've recorded everybody else except our lead actor. And only because we've gone out to all these big actors and they're all busy.
Yeah.
So, we made offers to people. It's taken us months, but I think we might have our actor.
Ooh, nice.
But I have a conversation tomorrow, and because it's not an easy part to play. They have to read. It's a 300 plus page script, and they're on every page.
Oh, wow.
So, and then as far as Chris goes, I'll tell you something interesting. I told her from the beginning that she was going to be the female lead in this, but as we started casting all of these known actors, the question came up, well, do you want to go after a really well-known female actor to play this part? And I said, I wasn't going to do that to Chris. I mean, I think if I told her that I was going to cast some big name, she would have understood, but I didn't want to do that because, I always loved her, as when we were doing the show together. I love when she would do voices and stuff. And so, but I was worried. That the level of acting, was high, and Chris, it's not that Chris isn't a great actress, but she doesn't have the pedigree that these other actors have. So I was a little worried. I didn't say anything to her, but I said it to other people. And I told Corey Landis, I said, who the actor he plays Walter Winchell, but I also had him act with all the other actors. I said, listen, Corey, we might have to take a bit more time with Chris. Boy, was I wrong. As soon as Chris Carr opened her mouth, I was stunned. Now, what you want from any actor is when they come in and do the part, especially like during auditions, you hope they take what's on the page and elevate it in some way. Chris Carr blew me away on every level. And this is not being hyperbolic. She was so good. I'll tell you why. She clearly prepared. And I did nudge her. I said, you better be fucking good, and I did tell her that beforehand. But She was so prepared. She knew this character, and like Katie Sackhoff too, heartbreaking, break your heart. You know, I mean, her character says "splendid" a lot. Oh, splendid! I guarantee you, when you listen to this thing and you hear her, you'll be saying "splendid" for days afterwards, because I was. And you know, she was a delight, and that's what you want from this. And what the cool thing about what I'm editing all of this now, hearing these actors, their voices put together, it's amazing. And when some people are going to hear it and go, "Oh, it's that guy," you know, and they might not know who the name is, but they'll know the voice. And it's just, I've had so much fun doing this, and the script is so good. And if nothing else, if no one else listens to this, I find it wildly entertaining.
Yeah, so do I. Everything I've heard so far, the proof of concept, being at the Comic-Con panel, everything's just been so fun, and getting to see everyone interact with each other. Everyone has such big personalities, and I cannot wait for this. You answered a couple questions that I had. I was going to ask about why. No, don't worry. Why an audio drama is the right format to tell this story, and then also about the incredible cast, because every time I talk to you, the cast gets bigger and bigger and more stacked.
Yeah.
And this cast is so exciting, and it's just so cool that you're getting all these people.
Well, what was really interesting was we were looking for a Frank Nitti, and Frank Nitti is basically the villain of the piece. And in the movie The Untouchables, Billy Drago plays Frank Nitti, and he dies, but Frank Nitti didn't die. And Frank Nitti took over what was called, they called the Chicago mob the Outfit. And Capone had gone to jail, and Frank Nitti took over. And in Road to Perdition, Frank Nitti was played by Stanley Tucci. So the only other person, I would love to have got Stanley Tucci, because he's one of my favorite actors. He was in a TV series called Wise Guy, the second season of Wise Guy, that I loved him in, part of the rag trade arc on that show, if you know that show. But he was way too out of our price range. Like, there was no possibility we were going to get Stanley Tucci. So I'm like, okay. So we were looking for a Frank Nitti. And, we went out to a few really exciting people. And a lot of them, again, they love the material, but they ended up passing just because they were all busy. We were going after really big people. And one person came up, which is David Strathairn. And David Strathairn is one of my favorite actors. He played Edward R. Murrow in George Clooney's movie Good Night and Good Luck. He's been in the Bourne movies as a government operative. He was in the movie Sneakers. I mean, he's been in a million different things. And when Christine brought him up, I was like, there's no way we're going to get David Strathairn to do this. Again, he responded to the material. He came in, he played Tom Cruise's brother in the movie The Firm. He was a convict that they let out. And I'm sitting there because I'm directing all these actors, and my I know how I want to hear it, but they always say that 95% of directing is casting. And that's true, because if you're allowed to cast who you want, as opposed to a studio mandated role that you don't know what you're going to get. We targeted people. We had a very bespoke cast. We didn't throw out auditions. We didn't ask anybody to audition for the roles. I was specifically, I'm like, I want that person or that person or that person. And we, for the most part, got them. And so, and you know what you're getting. And everybody delivered the goods. And for me, it's been so much fun editing the voices together. I feel listening, and I'm making it. So what else would I say? It just sucks. But when I'm cutting it together, I can't stop listening. When I cut together scenes and just listen to people, I just love, like there's a scene, we cast Adam Arkin as Marianne Beam, Chris Carr's character, she plays Marianne Beam, her father. And what was really interesting was Adam Arkin was an actor who asked to be in it. Like, he's a showrunner. He's directing Natasha Lyonne in Poker Face. And I'm like, Adam Arkin? I've been watching him my whole life. So he comes in and delivers this performance, and it was subtle. and it wasn't ostentatious or over the top. When I'm listening to it on headphones, I'm like, oh man, because he questions our main character who's fallen in love with Marianne Beam. He's like, you're in love with my daughter, aren't you? And I'm just listening to this going, this is so good. And it's like watching The Social Network, a movie that I just like to listen to people talk. I could watch that movie forever. And I'm just sitting here, even though we made it. I mean, I didn't write it and I didn't act in it. I just put all these people in it that have made the material sing. There's an idea that when an actor is doing something well, that they're playing the music as a music metaphor, and you've got to give actors music to play. And in this, the script, Max Allan Collins' script is that music, and the actors have all stepped up, and they're all really different. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I learned on The Perfect Concept is you don't want to put people, because they're acting in the same scene, with the same kinds of voices in the same scene.
Right.
Because you're like, who's talking? Mm-hmm. But all these voices are all very, very different. And like Katie Sackhoff, who plays our main character's fiance, and they break up over the course of the story, has a very different voice than Chris Carr.
Right.
And that works out really, really well. So
I cannot wait to hear when it fully comes out. So one of the things I mentioned earlier was Comic-Con, and getting to be there and be in the front row for your guys' panel was so much fun. I was laughing like the whole panel because
they were hilarious.
Went off the rails, but it was so fun. Chris mentioned the possibility of New York Comic-Con. Are you guys planning anything for that?
Yeah, so the plan is to go to New York Comic-Con. We're still working out the details. Obviously, it's expensive to go. What I want to do, and by the way, this is I've always wanted to debut like the first 2 or 3 episodes in a movie theater.
Ooh.
So you have people come in with a decent sound system and you turn off all the lights, pitch black. There's nothing on the screen. And you can't turn the exit lights off because that's against the law. But to get it as black and dark as possible and play it and let people just sit back. And each episode's about 35 minutes long.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
So, playing the first 2 episodes is 70 minutes. I mean, that's a good time in a movie theater. It's not too long. Mm-hmm. But it's so immersive because we have an entire original soundtrack, which is it's an amazing score. The score is amazing. And I just want people to hear what it is, because I think it's different than people are loving podcasts and audio dramas, but I don't think people have heard one quite like this.
Oh, that's exciting. So you mentioned right now the score and the music. It's by Alexander Bornstein.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the score?
Well, let's see. I think I can actually play you some because I just got a new piece. So what's really interesting so a lot of people, Alexander Bornstein, I've been working with for the last 10 years. I met him working on this Star Trek fan film called Prelude to Axanar, and then I got him hired on a movie back in 2015 that I was editing called Paradox, and then he got another movie from those producers, and so I've always called him up over the years. He did some music for Tango Shalom, and he's a great, again, I love working with up-and-coming people that are really talented, because you give them the opportunity to be creative, and they'll never let you down. Truly talented people you have to pay them, of course, but the joy of the work. And so I said to Alex, I'm like, I want a jazzy score with a lot of horns, late night smoky jazz bars, and where maybe nefarious things are going on in the corner. I'm like, that's kind of what I want, but it also has to have sort of, kind of a modern bent, if that makes any sense. So yeah, and I can play, like, I have a piece of music. Let's see, I think I can play it for you right now if you want to hear it.
Yeah, do it. As long as you don't get me demonetized.
No, because we own this music.
Yeah.
This will not be demonetized. Let me I'm looking for share screen, but I have to put down the sound. Here's what I gotta do. I see. I gotta do this. I got this, and then where's the button that says share sound? Why can't I see it on here? Have they moved that? Did they move that button?
Oh my God, they move everything every time.
Oh, share sound. Got it. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you.
Okay.
It's just going to be Apple Music because it's playing through Apple Music. But
Oh, nice.
I'm sharing my screen with you,
Okay.
and here I will play. No one's heard this, by the way. No
Ooh.
one's heard this
Do
piece
I
of
have to
music.
do anything on my end to make sure that it's picking up the audio?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
you'll be able to hear it.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So I'll stop that
That
there.
sounds good.
I mean, it's feature film quality.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
and what's really interesting about Alex, people now compose on their everything's done on a computer, but what
Mm.
Alex does is he brings in real players. So he's
Mm.
bringing in horn players, he's bringing in trumpet players and sax players and percussion players. Like there's some pieces where you hear that scratch across a snare, the brush
Mhm.
strokes across a drum, and I mean I knew Alex was talented,
Mm.
but when you start getting the work, I'm like, it elevates. Like I'm doing this audio drama, but now when you elevates that, I'm going, God, this is between this and the actors, it's something really special. Now,
Yeah.
look, it's still just an audio drama. It's still, and I know audio harks back to the days of radio in the 20s and 30s, the shadow nose, Ovaltine and all that. But I get all that. But when you're commuting to work, most people in their cars have pretty decent sound systems now. They're stock sound systems. When you play this in a car, it sounds incredible. And so I think, and on headphones and stuff, I think people are going to really, and for me, I obviously produced Tango Shalom and I have another, The White Devils is coming out. But this is different. And I've had so much creative control over this that, it's been a joyous experience because I get to make it exactly the way I want to make it. But that also, the flip side of that is if people hate it, it's my fault.
Oh my God. I think everything, especially the music, now hearing the music, everything just sounds great. And all the pieces I can see are coming together. When and where can people listen to this? And then also, can you tell people how they can get involved in the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah. So we already had equity financing to make this. So unlike a lot of other Kickstarter campaigns where people are trying to raise money to make something, our Kickstarter campaign is more to purchase this. So you can buy it as a digital download. You'll be able to get the soundtrack album on CD. There will be a physical media. There will be a Blu-ray for this. And the Blu-ray, people say, well, it's an audio drama. Why do you want a Blu-ray? Well, there are these Blu-rays that have of remastered albums that have 3 different mixes on the Blu-ray. So they've got a 2-channel stereo mix, they've got a 5.1 mix, and a Dolby Atmos mix. And the only way to really enjoy those are if you have a good home theater system or you have home media. But we are doing that. So we're making that. It's got Max Allen Collins is doing these 15 to 20 minute pieces called Behind the Mystery for each episode, explaining the real history behind each of the historical events. So that'll be on the Blu-ray. I did an hour-long interview with him in a speakeasy. That'll be on the Blu-ray. So it'll be, and you can purchase all that. And we're hoping to do a vinyl box set of all of it little bit later. So go to the Kickstarter campaign. It's truenoir.co. And that's where you can find it. Or you can just go to Kickstarter and type in True Noir, and
I
it'll
will make
take you to
sure
the page.
I'll put a link in the description of this video so people can check it out as well. We fucked up. We should have done our interview in a speakeasy, but we would have blacked out by now, honestly.
We totally would have, but we can still do that. And there's,
Rob, oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have one last question. Are you going to do a voice in this?
I do. I do a
Oh,
voice.
hell yeah.
I do. I play a lawyer named Louis Paquette.
Ooh, okay, all right.
It's just a small voice, and it's only over
but
the phone.
I was really hoping. I was talking to David earlier today. I was like, I hope, Rob, because your voice is just so iconic, and people they need it. They need it, Rob.
Well, I kind of affect my voice. He's kind of very taut, and so it's more like this. Yes, Mr. Heller. I trust you received the payment. So it's fun. It's fun, but it's a small, and we need a lot of voices in the background. One of the things that, there's a lot of restaurants and the World's Fair. We have a big prize fight in the movie. So hit him, you bum. So there's a lot of that throughout the show. So,
but yeah, Rob, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it. I cannot wait to hear this when it comes out. I'm so excited.
Well, I will send you one of the first, as soon as we have the first episode done. I'd love to get because I want to get some people's opinions and feedback, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
that'll be great.
But thank you for being enthusiastic and helping out and interviewing Chris and all that. And I know you've always been so supportive of everything, as we are. I mean, we're a family, man.
Yeah.
We are a family.
We are. Thank you, Rob. It's so good to see you. We got to get drinks soon. We got to, I don't know, hit up a rooftop bar when it's not 100 million degrees outside.
I totally agree. I mean, I don't think, even right now, I don't think I've had a t-shirt on that hasn't been damp in 2 months.
Yeah, I'm damp as well.
But it's good to see you, man.
Oh, good to see you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye.